Pakistan International Airlines' small aircraft was ready to take off from Gwadar Airport. It was a routine flight as always, but today was far from normal for Pakistani authorities because no one knew that 3 hijackers were on board. Suddenly, news came that a plane had been hijacked. In the next few hours, PIA Flight 544 was about to become the headline of national and international media. Pakistan, just 3 days away from conducting its first nuclear test, was thrown into extreme turmoil by the hijacking of PIA Flight 544. The situation was so dire that Pakistan was forced to unfurl India's flag. Welcome back to our channel. It was the evening of May 25, 1998. Pakistan International Airlines, or PIA Flight 544, took off from Turbat, Balochistan, and landed at Gwadar International Airport. This small PIA Fokker F-27 aircraft had a scheduled 20-minute stop at Gwadar Airport. 3 passengers disembarked and 1 new passenger boarded. Now, the plane had a total of 27 passengers and 5 crew members. After passenger boarding, the aircraft took off at 5:55 p.m. and its next and final stop was Karachi International Airport, where it was scheduled to land exactly an hour later at 6:55 p.m. A few minutes after taking off from Gwadar Airport, a passenger got up and headed towards the cockpit. The air hostess tried to stop him, but he pushed her aside and managed to get into the cockpit. At that time, while all this was happening on PIA Flight 544, Pakistan was just 3 days away from conducting its first nuclear test in the Hijack district of Balochistan on May 28, 1998. This test was named Hijack by Pakistan, and it was a significant day in Pakistan's history because India had already conducted its second nuclear test, Pokhran 2, at the beginning of that month. The world saw Pakistan as 24 years behind in the nuclear race, as India had conducted its first nuclear test, Pokhran I, in 1974. That's why Pakistan wanted to avoid any kind of trouble before its first nuclear test. However, despite their efforts, the very thing they feared happened. The man who forcibly entered the cockpit of PIA Flight 544 pulled out a pistol and told the pilot that the plane had been hijacked. 2 more accomplices were present in the passenger cabin. When they saw that the pilot was under control, they stood up and took all the passengers hostage at gunpoint. The hijackers warned all the passengers that if they tried to act smart, the plane would be blown up with the bomb one of them had strapped to his body. Before anyone could comprehend the situation, the pilot made an announcement confirming that PIA Flight 544 had been hijacked. Talking about the crew of Flight PK 544, it included Captain Uzair Khan, First Officer Mohammed Faisal, and 2 air hostesses, Khalida Afridi and Asma Irani. There was also a ground engineer, Sajjad Chaudhry, among them. The 3 hijackers did not appear to be well educated. They wore traditional shalwar kameez, and since they boarded from Turbat, it was highly likely that they belonged to the Balochistan province. But what exactly were the hijackers' demands? Balochistan province, located in the south, is Pakistan's largest province. Since the British India era, some tribes here wanted a separate country. However, in 1947, with the partition of Pakistan and India, Balochistan was declared a province of Pakistan. Since then, some tribes in Balochistan have been against the Pakistani government and do not appreciate the use of Balochistan's natural resources. Pakistan's first nuclear test on May 28, 1998, was also to be conducted in the Hijack district of Balochistan. According to reports, the local population feared that nuclear testing in this area would have disastrous consequences for them. On the other hand, the Pakistani government's point was that only a few people lived there, and they had been moved to other areas before the nuclear testing. It was this conflict that angered the Baloch insurgents, and to raise their voice, they hijacked PIA Flight 544 just 3 days before the test. The hijacker in the cockpit demanded that Captain Uzair Khan fly the plane directly to New Delhi, India, instead of Karachi. The The hijackers believed that by landing in India, they could draw the world's attention to their cause. They thought that since they were against the Pakistani government, they might receive a sympathetic response in India. A similar incident had occurred 5 years earlier, in 1993, when an Indian Airlines Flight 439 from Delhi to Madras was hijacked by a Sikh truck driver. He demanded that the plane be flown to Lahore International Airport in Pakistan, but due to lack of permission, the plane was landed in Amritsar, where the hijacker held a press conference before surrendering. The Baloch hijackers might have had a similar plan. Captain Uzair Khan turned the plane's direction towards India at gunpoint and announced to the passengers that they would be landing in New Delhi. However, the hijackers were unaware that the captain had secretly switched the aircraft's transponder to hijack mode, sending a signal to ground control that the plane had been hijacked. PIA Flight 544 was now crossing Karachi and heading towards the Pakistan-India border. The pilot told the hijacker that this small F-27 plane did not have enough fuel to fly directly 1,100 kilometers to New Delhi, so it would have to land somewhere for refueling. The pilot suggested that they land at Bhuj Airport in India, 300 kilometers away in Gujarat. The hijackers agreed, so the pilot contacted the control tower and requested permission to land at Bhuj Airport. However, Captain Uzair Khan had cleverly called Pakistan's Hyderabad Airport instead of Bhuj Airport. All airports in Pakistan had already been informed that Flight 544 had been hijacked, so the control tower at Hyderabad Airport was also on high alert. The Hyderabad Airport authorities responded by pretending to be Bhuj Airport and granted the captain permission to land. By now, it was nighttime, and an emergency had been declared throughout Hyderabad as a hijacked plane was about to land there, and the hijackers believed it was Bhuj Airport in India. Airport authorities were instructed to remove all identifying markers that indicated it was Hyderabad Airport. They covered the name, Hyderabad, on the terminal building, removed signboards, turned off the lights, and even replaced the Pakistani flag with an Indian flag. Additionally, in coordination with the local administration, the entire city of Hyderabad was blacked out to prevent the hijackers from recognizing any landmarks. Rangers and police vehicles were positioned on the airport grounds with their lights off. However, this all happened so suddenly that no one had a clear plan of action. Late at night, PK 544 finally landed at Hyderabad Airport. The airport authorities observed from the plane's windows that one hijacker was in the cockpit, another near the main door, and the third was patrolling the cabin. There was silence for about an hour, but then at 11:30 p.m., the plane's door opened and ground engineer Sajjad Chaudhry was sent outside. He was sent to bring food and water, along with a special message. The terrified ground engineer approached the airport authorities and conveyed the hijackers' demands to the police. The hijackers, still believing they had landed at India's Bhuj Airport, demanded a meeting with the Pakistani High Commissioner in India. Their biggest demand was to stop nuclear testing in Balochistan. The police were informed that a squad of Pakistani army commandos was on its way from Islamabad, and until then, they were to stall the hijackers by any means necessary. The police officers decided to interact with the hijackers, pretending to be Indians. Senior Superintendent of Police Akhtar Gaur Cheney introduced himself as Manoj Kumar, Assistant Superintendent of Police Usman Anwar became Ramchandra, and Deputy Commissioner Sohail Shah assumed the name Gopi Chand. They used whatever names they could think of at the time and bravely approached the plane in civilian clothes. They provided the hijackers and passengers with food and interacted with them in a friendly manner. SSP Akhtar Gaur Cheney, knowing the language, could easily understand the hijackers' conversations but did not let on. The police officers spent several hours with the hijackers, building a level of trust. They informed the hijackers that the Pakistani High Commissioner from New Delhi was on his way, and it would take some time for him to arrive. In reality, they were waiting for the Pakistani army commandos to arrive. SSP Akhtar Gore Cheney later recounted in his interview that only 2 hours were left until dawn, but there was still no sign of the commandos. He kept telling the hijackers, "When will the commandos arrive? This is getting ridiculous. 5 hours have passed. In an hour or two, the Fajr call to prayer will begin." As the trust level with the hijackers increased significantly, the police officers and the deputy commissioner decided to take action themselves. At an opportune moment, the three of them simultaneously pounced on the hijackers, subdued them, and confiscated their weapons. It was later discovered that they had no bombs. The three hijackers were identified as Shah Sawar Baloch, Sabir Baloch, and Sabir Rind, but they were traveling under the names Jamal Hussain, Anwar Hussain, and Ghulam Hussain. There were no casualties in this entire climax, and all the passengers were safely sent to Karachi on the same plane. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let us know in the comments which topics you'd like to see more videos on. This is Elena Bali, signing off. Until next time.